Good day, everyone. This is Naigon here from Naigon's Electronic Creations, along with Master Footman, and I'm very pleased to bring you today this new Saber system I've developed called Saber Swarm. And this Saber tube is actually just a small part of what this whole Saber Swarm system is. So today I want to go over this system, talk about why I developed it, how I developed it, and go over all the parts. So let's get going. So first, we're going to talk about the problem, like why did I even go about to create this whole new system. We're going to talk about what is this system exactly, like what's it comprised of, what's the technology behind it. We'll talk about the three main parts of this system, which is the Saber Stinger, the Sound Hornet, and the Sound Hive. We'll go over a demo of these products in action, and then we'll just have some closing. So let's begin with the problem. Like, what was the problem I was trying to solve? Well, sabers right now are a very personal experience, but they should really be a group experience, not a one-man show, in my opinion. And what do I mean by that? Like, for instance, here's a saber. You know, I turn it on, and as I'm using it, it works great. You know, I hear it really well. The sound is sort of projecting at me. But the problem is in a group setting where there's a lot of ambient noise, or like where I want to go up and show it to people in a far distance, or even someone on stage that's actually doing like arts or performing with the saber. It really it falls short in its current needs. It really doesn't live up. And what I wanted to do is be able to make the light, which you can see from far away. I want the sound to have that same quality. They're like, wow, like everyone can enjoy it. So that's really the problem I'm going after with this entire system that I've created. So now that we know the problem, let's talk about what this system is. How did I solve that problem? So Saber Swarm is really a client-server solution to the problem of sound. So the idea was, okay, the sound can never be loud enough, inside this small tube. You're only going to be able to get so much resonance, so much sound out of this. So what I decided to do was to basically separate the sound from the saber. So that way the saber still has the motion and the lights and effects, but the sound will be separate because that's going to be the only way to pump up the volume. So how am I going to do that? Well, obviously you're going to have to use wireless because you're not going to want to have a wire dangling out your saber. And what wireless did I use? Well, when I started this project, everyone assumed, okay, you're using Bluetooth. Pretty much everyone that I showed this to privately was like, oh, is that Bluetooth? No, it's not. And it's not a Wi-Fi connection, it's not networking either. It's actually the XB Zigbee Series 2 modules, as they're called. And now let's go over why I chose that. So hopefully in post-production I'll be able to overlay this picture of the Zigbee Series 2. If not, you'll see it during the demo. But basically the XB Series 2, they're little wireless modules, and I have one just here actually. This is one of the Series 2, and hopefully you can see this pretty well. And again, I'll try to post-production at it. But basically this module is why did I choose this module instead of using the other technologies? Well, there's four main reasons. It's low power during broadcasts, like 33 milliamps. That's pretty good. One of the best wireless type things. Its default package size is really great. It could be smaller. I wish it was a little skinnier because these pins add extra width. But it's still under an inch wide, so it still fits in your 1-inch board pretty easily, and it's just over an inch long. So you can usually, stick this in a pretty small area. In fact, most of the hilts, like this hilt has it installed. The hilt I was just swinging has it installed, no problem. I believe I could squeeze it in this hilt. This is a show hilt. I'm never going to do it though. I just want this to be plain. Obviously your parks though, it really won't fit. There's not really going to be a way to get it in this 7/8" tube. Maybe some other parts could, but it just gives you an idea that most of the sabers will work, but there's a couple obviously are too small. The other reason I like it is the ease of use. Like this XB has a dongle you can purchase, which I recommend everyone that has a system have one dongle. The dongle, you can plug this in, then you plug in a USB to the computer, and you can program all the settings and basically configure it and work with it. It makes it really easy for debugging, diagnosing. There's a lot of software already written to do all that. It's really great. So I just felt like it's a really robust solution for this, and it also requires really minimal wiring. There's only these top 3 wires and the bottom wire, the only 4 wires to wire it to the igniter board. And finally, the main reason I actually chose this, of all the reasons, was the mesh networking capability. What is mesh networking? So if you have multiple Sabers using the system, for instance, say, just pretend it's, these 2 Sabers. If this guy can be within, say, 100 meters outdoor range of the server to communicate. But if this guy goes another 100 meters, so he's 200 total meters, from it. So I'm the server, right? This guy's 200 meters, but this is 100 between. This signal will actually communicate through the Saber and communicate back to the server. And that will allow like an extended range, so people doing groups can choreograph it, so at least like 1 or 2 guys are in between, and all the Sabers can still communicate with the server. So that mesh networking is really the main reason I chose the XP. It really makes it really flexible. Okay, so now we talked about sort of like what Saber Swarm is as a whole. What's the technology? Let's talk about the 3 individual components. So first you have Stinger. Saber Stinger is just an app for Igniter 2. That's all it is. This is what I like about the app's functionality of Igniter 2. It's so powerful. I can just keep creating new and new experiences. It just makes it really flexible. And what's really cool is you can just use the Saber normally, and then when you want to do the special sound, you can go into the app. Like you saw, this Saber, you saw I just used it as normally. If I want to load a sound server, I just load the apps menu and load that specific app. So that makes it really great. And finally, the app it just sends the sounds to the server. Like it turns off the speaker, and then instead of sending to the speaker, it just sends commands to the server, so the server can make the sounds. So that's pretty much what the Stinger app is. But to get sound, you need a server. So there's 2 servers that you can have: the Sound Hornet, Sound Hive. We'll go over both of those now. Sound Hornet is what I dubbed sort of the personal server before I came up with the final naming. And this is basically, it's a hardware server. It's basically a board just like a Igniter 2 or Spark 2. It's just a board that runs sound. And in fact, that's exactly what this Saber Tube is. It has the Hornet installed. So with the max amp, it's got a max amp on board, and if you run a second max amp, you can run like 2 3-watt speakers, like one bassy one. This, for instance, has a 3-watt bass speaker about here that gives it a good bass resonance. And then I have a 40mm tweeter speaker, up near the front, like right behind the fabric here. And what's cool about that is that that tweeter is bigger than the bass speaker that fits in any of these Sabers, right? So it really has a pretty nice sound. What's also cool is there's support for multiple Sabers. I think you got that idea because I wanted the mesh network. But specifically, this supports 2 full Sabers and up to 8 Sabers extended. What does that mean? So you can basically have 2 Sabers that have all their sounds, and then some more can still come in. And this is all possible. It all uses the True Mix with auto-compressing technology. And let's go over sort of how that works. So this, unlike the Igniter board, which is a True Mix with 2 channels, this has got 4 channels. So it's got 2 of the dedicated hum channels, so you can have 2 Sabers running hums. And then it's got 2 channels for effects, but those aren't dedicated, they're round robin. What's that mean? Well, if I pick up this Saber and am using it, if I do a swing, that'll go in the effects bank 1. If I do a second swing, it goes in effects bank 2. Effects bank 1 still sort of rings out, so you don't cut it out, unlike the Igniter board. It allows for like a much nicer sound. Now, obviously, if you start using a ton of Sabers in a row, you're going to get sounds cut off since you only have 2 channels. But for 1 or 2 Sabers, this works very nicely. And then, so again, it supports 2 hums. It also supports, instead of 2 hums, you could have 1 hum and a track, so tracks are supported. Pretty much every feature of Igniter is supported, save for the multi-phase switching on the fly is not supported. And then other Sabers, so how the other Sabers work is if you have 2 Sabers running, they're doing the hums, all effects. You turn on the 3rd Saber, you'll hear the extension sound, you'll hear its effect, it just won't bring in a new hum, only 2 hums will play. And then it doesn't, once you have 3 Sabers running, it doesn't matter the order you turn them off, it'll always leave 2 hums until there's 2 Sabers left, and then once the next Saber goes off, it'll go down to 1 hum, and so on. So that's the Hornet. So now let's talk about the Sound Hive. So the Sound Hive is actually a complete Win32 application. It's a WinForms app. It's not like a new style app. It's actually an application. What's awesome about that? As here we're talking about, okay, you have 3 watts. With the max amp, that's about all you can run as a 3-watt speaker. So you could run 2. If you really wanted to get some hardware thing off eBay that would maybe power like a 5 or 10-watt speaker, excuse me, and you could, but you're still kind of limited. How big you're going to make the hardware, right? So with the computer, you're not limited at all. I mean, you can run huge, 30-watt speaker system directly from a computer, or you can, take a laptop. If you have a decent sound card, you can pipe the output into a PA system, and you can run like gargantuan PA speakers, and so it's going to be really loud. There's just no limit. What else? Of course, this also has the true mix with auto compressing technology, which just makes this sound possible. No other system has that. You're going to get the overlapping sound. What's awesome here, though, is you're not limited to two channels per each thing. You can have up to 4 hum channels. You can configure it between 2 to 4. I still like only 2, honestly, but you can do 4 if you want. But then you have 16 channels. So if you do 2, you have 14 more channels for effects. And even if you're using all 16 Sabers with 14 channels and like ringing out and mixing, the sound is so robust. It's unbelievable how awesome this is. I wish I could get stuff like this on just the Igniter board. And again, you can use basically, you have up to 4 full users, but you can just run 16 completely with the, after 2, 3, or 4, whatever you set. After that, just the effects work. So hopefully I'm going to be able to overlay in post-production a picture here of the main app. But basically the main app can has 2 main pages. The sound app can basically connect with the COM port. So you'll hook this up to the dongle, hook it into your computer. That will be assigned to COM port. You choose that from the drop-down, hit open, then your server's ready. That's pretty much the first page, what you can do. You also can set where your sound files are stored on disk. It's pretty simple. And then the second thing you can do is you actually have a second page where you can modify all the users. So you can add users to the system that are registered, and then you can also change like what sounds assigned to which user, and you can manually trigger all the sounds for the user. So this is really good for like a group that could have someone running the PA system and running this in case there's a problem. They could stop sounds, trigger sounds, etc. So that's pretty good. Now that we've talked about both these systems, you know the system end to end, you know all the pieces, would anyone here like to see a demo of that? Well, I can't hear your response, but I'm assuming some of the people are screaming yes at the screen right now. So let's go ahead and do the demo.